What is up, agents? This is Wrecker, back with another build video. Now this build is really fun because once again the synergy we have between different attributes and talents we're running is just really effective. We are putting enemies on 4 different status effects, debuffing them, boosting our entire group's damage, and all that by simply shooting with our Bluescreen LMG here. Yes, we are doing extremely effective crowd control on legendary difficulties without even using any of the status effect skills here. And lastly, what if I tell you we will be healing our teammates at the same time extremely effectively? Yes, and that is what makes this build really fun to use, and you're gonna love this. So yeah, with that being said, please like the video, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and let's begin. Okay, so starting off with the specialization, we are running, of course, the survivalist specialization. Reason being, we're getting an armor kit which not only repairs us but also our teammates within 20 meters, so that's really handy. Then we are getting 10% protection from elites, that's always welcome. We're getting 15% increased outgoing healing. That's very important because we are running 2 of the healing skills. And speaking of healing skills, we are running the Mentor Seeker Mine, which only unlocks with this specialization. So that's something to keep note of. Then we are getting 10% bonus damage to targets with status effects. Yes, we are putting on enemies on status effects 99% of the time, so that's very important. Then we are getting some ammo while team cover to cover. That's not really important, but we're gaining 10% skill haste. Yes, that is a bit handy because we are getting our skills back in 20 seconds, both of them, as you will see in the gameplay. That's really helpful. Lastly, keep in mind you have to stack in the right weapon type in your weapons tree. For me, of course, that's the Bluescreen, that's an LMG. So yeah, that's the specialization we're running here. Okay, so starting off with the weapons, of course, the weapon itself, the whole setup is built around the Bluescreen LMG. That's an exotic. It came out recently, I suppose the last season. It comes with LMG damage, damage to targets out of cover, and damage to armor. So of course, all multiplicative damage attributes, so that's really handy. Keep in mind mine is upgraded to expertise rank 10, that's why you see an additional 10% weapon damage. So as a base number, mine is sitting at 132.6k, 660 rpm, and a mag of 100, so that's really good. The talent that it comes with, it's called Disruptor Rounds. Keep in mind I will explain to you how to use this talent in the simplest and easiest way, so you guys don't have to get confused by the huge description that you can see here, because most people see this talent and they get confused that this might be too complex to proc, but that's not true. But anyhow, the description says shooting an enemy marks that enemy and adds a stack to the agent up to a count of 50, so we're getting 50 stacks by just shooting the enemy. Shooting a marked enemy refreshes the mark and adds stacks to the agent when you deploy a non-shield skill. So anything without the shield can deploy the triggered mark stacks. Remove all stacks on agent and mark targets trigger an effect. Now, what those effects are when you trigger the effect by deploying a skill are listed here. So 1 to 10 stacks, that's the pulse effect for 5 seconds. From 11 to 25, that's pulse and disrupt effect, again for 5 seconds. Then from 26 to 49, we're getting all 3, pulse, disrupt, and disorient for 5 seconds. Now from 50 stacks onwards, that's where it gets interesting a bit. Pulse, disrupt, and disorient marked targets and all hostiles within 10 meters of the marked targets for 5 seconds. So what's happening is, previously you were only applying these status effects to one single target that you were shooting, right? But now, from 50 stacks onwards, all those status effects are going to be applied to all the hostiles within a 10-meter radius of the original target that you were shooting. So basically at this point it's spreading the status effects, all 3. And lastly, it says this effect will trigger immediately if any marked enemy is killed, which of course it will be because this is a damage support build and your teammates, not only you, your teammates as well, will be killing enemies. So that's really handy. But what I'm trying to say here is you don't have to keep track of everything that's listed here, you know, how much stacks do you have or what status effects are you applying. Just keep shooting. That's the simplest and most efficient way to use this Bluescreen LMG, is that you have to make sure is that you are applying as much status effects onto the enemies as possible by shooting everything. So just keep spreading and shooting all the enemies in the room, and they will be marked, I can assure you, with all the status effects that are listed here. And not only this, 3 of the status effects are being applied from the Bluescreen LMG, but we are also applying bleed from the hollow point ammo. That's what we are getting from the gear set we are running, which I will show you later. So yeah, that's really helpful. And when you see this in action, as you will see in the gameplay, this is really fun LMG to run actually. I don't know why most people aren't running this, maybe because it doesn't fit into most builds, but only a certain ones. But anyhow, that's the main primary weapon we are running here, the start of the show. The secondary and the sidearm doesn't really matter. Whatever you have, whatever you like to run, you can run it, but 99% of the time we are running our blue screen, so that's what matters. So yeah, these are the weapons we are running here. Okay, so starting off with the gear pieces, of course we are running the ongoing directive gear set. We're running 4 pieces including the chest and the backpack, because that is gonna boost our damage numbers by a lot. So the 2 pieces getting us 15% status effects, 3 pieces getting us 30% reload speed. That's very handy, especially when you're running an LMG, so that's helpful. The 4 piece is the main talent for the gear set. It's called Rules of Engagement. Shooting a status affected enemy will apply a mark. Killing a marked enemy grants a full clip of hollow point ammo for your active weapon. That's our blue screen. And half of the clip of the agent's active weapon to the rest of the party. So not only you're getting bleed ammo, but to your entire group. So that's really helpful. As for the cooldown skill, it says mark lasts for 10 seconds, so that's really helpful. Hollow point ammo amplifies weapon damage by 20% and applies bleed on hit. So that's really helpful. We are getting amplified weapon damage by 20% by simply running 4 piece here. But these numbers will be boosted because we are running the chest and the backpack. So before I show you the talent that we are running on the chest here, that's going to boost our numbers, the attributes we are running on the chest here, that's weapon damage, status effects, and repair skills. Now the reason being is that I am running all reds. If you want, you can run blues or yellows in there, but for me, I wanted to output as much damage as I can without having the crit numbers, so that's what I'm going for. But that's my personal preference. You can run blues or yellows in there if you prefer. For the minor attributes, I am running status effects throughout the build on all 6 pieces, is because we want to maximize the potential for our status effects attributes here. So that's the only reason. The mod slot that I see here, that's the repair skills, which you will figure out later when I explain to you the skills at the end of the builds, because we are running 2 of the healing skills on our build. Now my goal is not only to debuff enemies and do crowd control and boost the damage for our entire team, but also heal them. Yes, it's not a dedicated healer of course, but you will see having repair skills on all of the 3 mod slots, that's 60% in total, you will be healing your teammates very good, which you will see in the gameplay. And both the skills that we are running can heal your teammates at the same time. So, but I will show you all that later when we get to the skills. The talent that the chest piece comes with is called Parabellum Rounds. That's basically an increase your amplified weapon damage for hollow point ammo from 20% to 35%. Now keep in mind, the 20% we are getting from the main gear set talent, that does apply to our teammates, so they will be boosted by that 20%, but this additional 15%, that's only for us. As you will see here, it says this bonus does not apply to party members. So yeah, we are getting 35%, but what if I tell you they are also getting 35%, because we do have 10% from the survivalist specialization we're running here. So not 35% but 30%. 30% is what's the boosted damage bonus our teammates are getting. So that's really handy. So 35 for us and 30 for our teammates. So yeah, that's the chest piece we are running here for the gear set. Now for the backpack, yes, as I said, we are running the ongoing directive gear set backpack here. Same attributes, weapon damage, status effects, and a repair skills mod in there. The talent that the backpack comes with is called Trauma Specialist. Now that's what's going to increase our status effects by 50%, the duration for it, but also the bleed damage that we are inflicting on all the enemies by 100%. So that's really handy because we are using a certain mask that's going to boost our bleed damage on spread. So that's the backpack we're running here, so that's really important. Same thing for the holster, we're running weapon damage and status effects. Lastly, same thing for the knee pads, weapon damage and status effects. Okay, for the gloves here, I am running the contractors, is because since we are running the LMG Bluescreen, it's gonna give us 10% LMG damage, so that's very beneficial. For the attributes, we are running 15% weapon damage, 10% status effects just like all the gear pieces, but we are also getting 8% damage to armor, that's multiplicative. So that's really handy, and I would highly recommend running this glove here in this setup. Okay, lastly for the mask, we are running the exotic wild mask here that fits in very well and synergizes with the whole setup here that we are trying to go for. It comes with a core attribute of skill tier, 10% status effects and 10% hazard protection, and of course I have slotted in a 20% repair skills mod in there as I said earlier. The talent that it comes with, it's called Toxic Delivery. Status effects also apply a damage over time debuff for 10 seconds. Total damage dealt is equal to 50% of your concussion grenade damage and increased by your status effect attributes. So that's really helpful since we are applying status effects, debuffing enemies and boosting our team's damage. That's really handy because this damage debuff is basically acting as a bleed effect because it's gonna chuck down the armor and the health for our enemies down to 0. So that's what synergizes with the backpack especially, which is boosting our bleed damage to 100%. So I would highly recommend running this mask. As you will see in the gameplay, it does turn out really good. So yeah, that's the mask we're running in this setup. Okay, so starting off with the skills, the first skill that I'm running is the Fixer Drone. As I mentioned earlier, not only we are doing crowd control for the whole group, we are also healing them as much as possible, and that's where that 60% repair skills we're running for the mods comes in handy. So you will see in the gameplay as well, even though we are only at skill tier 1, you will still be healing yourself and your teammates very fast. You will see that in the gameplay. The mods that I'm running on it is 7.5% duration, 10% health, and 7.5% armor repair. And being a tier 1 drone here, we're getting plus 20% armor repair and plus 70% health. Keep in mind, you will be getting your skills back within 20 seconds. It says 22 here, but it does not count the 10% we are getting from the survivalist specialization. So yeah, that's what we're running as our first skill. Okay, for the second skill that I'm running here, that's the Mender Seeker Mine. That's a skill that unlocks from the survivalist specialization. That's really helpful because you don't even have to direct it to your teammates. It will go to your teammates and heal them as much as possible. For the mods, I am running 15% healing, 5% radius, and 15% health as mods here. Being a tier 1 Mender Seeker Mine, we're getting plus 20% healing and 5% radius here. So yeah, that's the second skill we're running. Okay, so before I jump into the full overview for the entire setup, let me show you the stats real quick. Keep in mind, our only goal is to put enemies on status effects and apply debuffs, and also boost our teammates' damage is by shooting. So don't worry about using your skills here to put on status effects, because only by shooting our LMG Bluescreen we are putting on enemies on 4 different status effects, but also debuffing them. So that's our goal here. So as for the main base number here for our LMG, we are sitting at 132 base weapon damage, 10% crit chance, 45 crit damage. These 2 attributes don't matter in this one because we are not going for the crit numbers here, but having a huge base damage like I do does really help out. You will still be killing enemies, as you will see in the gameplay, but that's my personal preference to run this build. As I said earlier, you can run blues or yellow core attributes on the setup if you want to. As a base number, we are setting as 726k armor, 351k health, 85% headshot damage, 14% armor damage. That's really handy because not only that applies to your weapon bullet per damage, but it also applies to status effects. So yeah, as long as you're holding your LMG blue screen, that 14% is going to be applied on your status effect damage. So that's really handy. Okay, so this is the full build everyone. We are running the survivalist specialization. As a primary, we are running the exotic Bluescreen LMG. The secondary and the sidearm doesn't really matter because we aren't really using them. You can run whatever you prefer. For the gear pieces, we are running 4-piece ongoing directive, including the backpack and the chest piece. Keep in mind we are running weapon damage and status effect as a minor attribute on all the pieces. For the gloves, I am running the named Petrov gloves here, the contractor gloves, because that's giving us multiplicative armor damage. And lastly, for the mask, I'm running the exotic wild mask here. That's gonna apply debuff on hit. For the skills, we are running 2 of the healing skills to not only heal us, since we are running this build in legendary, so that's gonna come handy, but also our teammates at the same time. So we're running the Fixer Drone and also the Mender Seeker Mine, which unlocks from the Survivalist specialization here. So yeah, that's the full build everyone. Let me know what you guys think in the comment section below, if it works for you or not. So your feedback is always appreciated, but I can assure you, you're gonna enjoy this one. So if you haven't already, please subscribe to the channel, like the video, and I hope you guys enjoy the gameplay. I will catch you guys in the next one. See ya.